even when I'm down. Got my head in the clouds and my feet on the ground. I got big dreams.
Yeah, we've got big dreams here at the Genius Lab. Today is the 25th podcast based on my new book, Release Your Shit and Reclaim Your Power. And I'm so glad you're here today. Today, we are talking about the 5 steps to claiming your power. And hallelujah, I bet you guys are all excited now because yes, indeed, there are only 5 steps needed to reclaim your power. That it's got to be easy to remember and easy to do because 5 steps is simple, right? Well, yes. And as you master these 5 aspects of claiming your power, you will be masterful at owning your power and doing great things in the world. This will keep you unaffected by the dumb fuckery of the world that's going on. That's so prevalent. There's just so much bullshit out there that wants to pull us off of our center and create something that is puts us into comparison and criticism, and it's just bullshit stuff, right? And so when you master these 5 steps, the dumb fuckery will be easy to maneuver, no problem. Now, as you're learning these 5 steps, something might pop into your mind, like, are you out of your fucking mind, Toby? There's no possible way that I'm going to master all 5 of these things. Well, the good news is you don't need to master them all permanently. The only time that they need to be that you need to be masterful with them is the moment that they show up. So your success is basically determined by your awareness, your consciousness, and your desire to accomplish your mission. And the thing is that you will be greatly helped if you're really clear. We've talked about this before in other podcasts about your core values, your core beliefs, your goals, and your mission. Like if you know what you stand for, you know what you believe, you know where you're going, and you know why you're going there, those things will solidify your intention and your resolve in a way that will be powerful, like beyond Superman power, okay? Now, you can check some of this stuff out if you go to tobychristensen.com/the-GeniusLab. Okay, you will get a link to the Genius Lab sessions that I do where we work on helping you get clear on these things. Core values, core beliefs, goals, mission, and then also we talk about worldview, like how you see the world. But let's dig into the 5 steps because this is cool. 5 steps to reclaiming your power. Step 1, what are your buttons? You've heard it said, God, that guy really pushes my buttons, or that person really pushes my buttons. Now, obviously, you don't have an external button that somebody comes along and punches and you go crazy, but you kind of have one because when you get punched, you go crazy. And it can be really subtle. And a lot of times we can get triggered by people not even actually doing anything. We can see something that triggers us. We can be reactive to a song. There's all kinds of things that can trigger us or that can push our buttons. And as you become aware of what those are, you can become aware in a manner that will prevent them from having the power over you that they would if you were unaware. Okay? The second step to reclaiming your power is identifying your reaction when you get your buttons pushed. Okay? My friend calls this going on a trip. And I was raised in the 70s and 80s, where it was that was a common phrase used. If somebody was was getting crazy and getting all upset, you'd say, "Man, you're tripping. Chill out and quit tripping." And so when my friend was using this in a seminar and he talked about going on a trip, I'm like, I love it. But basically, your trip is your reaction to getting your buttons pushed. What is it? Do you get angry? Do you get frustrated? Do you shut down? And the thing is, this can happen so quickly. Everything's going good. You're in a great mood. Then your girlfriend calls and breaks up with you, or you realize there was a stock market crash, or you find out a friend of yours was injured in a car accident. In a split second, your mood changes from positive, plummets to a low vibration. You get pissed off, hurt, frustrated, depressed, whatever it is. But that's the step 2, knowing and becoming aware of the reaction when you get your buttons pushed. Okay. Number 3, be aware of what happens to your body when your buttons get pushed. Okay. In poker, there's a thing called a tell. And it's a common term for behavior that indicates stress or jubilation. Okay, so in other words, when a player gets a particular card dealt to them, maybe they nod their head to the right when they're perplexed because they get a shitty card, or maybe they tap their cards on the table, when they have a good hand. Sometimes it can be even more subtle than that, like a rolling of the eyes or a lifting of an eyebrow. They can be really subtle, because in the same way that we want to learn, or that professional poker players learn, that's a mouthful, learn how to learn their opponent's tells so they can be on top of the game. They also have to become conscious of their own. And so you want to become aware. Step 3 is to become aware of the reaction, of the body sensation, what happens to your body when your buttons get pushed. So we have what pushes them, what's your reaction, and what tells you that you're in a reactive state. If you can get that dialed in, you're way ahead of the ball game. And all kinds of good stuff is going to be coming through. Now we're going to start on step 4 in reclaiming your power. It's called turn it around. And so you know that you get triggered. You know what your reactive state is. You know how your body shows you, clear signs that you're fully engaged in disempowering behavior. What this step is about is turning it around. And the main thing that I want you to remember with turning it around is that turning it around doesn't necessarily mean that you do the complete opposite of your state. In other words, you don't go from being, I'm so fucking pissed off, I want to punch this guy's face in, to, oh, blessings, brother, you're so fantastic. That's an unrealistic turn. But it could be, perhaps I'm overreacting to this situation. Perhaps I need to gather some facts and think about maybe that this is not fully and completely the whole story. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to turn gently from a non-resourceful state into a resourceful state, turn from a place where you're thinking with your emotion rather than thinking with your heart and your head. So the turn is really important, and it's important to do small incremental turns, because when you're going 200 miles an hour in your Ferrari around the racetrack, you don't make really fast, jerky, major turns with the steering wheel, okay? You use little tiny incremental movements in order to turn. Otherwise, you crash and kill yourself. So we don't want you crashing and killing yourself on your turn. We want you to make it nice and gentle, and we want you to pull out of this nice and easy. And our last state is our last step is step number 5, training for the battlefield. And basically what this is, it's bringing your awareness to understanding when you're going into an environment that might be confrontational or not helpful. Okay? Because you're probably never going to quit getting triggered by something. Something is always going to push your buttons. Your buttons will never completely go away. Okay. But the more you claim your power and the more you do the work, the less affected you'll be when your buttons do get pushed. Okay. One of the things you can do is to begin to train yourself to anticipate the button pushing. For example, in this book, I've shared a lot about myself and about my insecurity and how I compare myself to people that have more stuff and are better looking and more talented and whatever. Okay, so if I'm going to a social event at the Four Seasons, my natural weakness will be to compare myself to everybody. Look at what they drive in, look at what kind of clothes they're wearing, what kind of watches they're wearing, so on and so forth. So knowing that is my trigger, knowing that I am going into a situation that could be somewhat, where I could be somewhat vulnerable, I can train and look at different ways of evaluating or different ways of responding to the stimulus that I know is going to be there. And one of the things that I do now, because I help run a nonprofit, is I look for potential donors. Who's into music? Who wants to help kids and or veterans and who has money to help us? So when a guy comes in with his U.S. military pin on his lapel and his solid gold Rolex, I'm like, hell yes. Rather than getting triggered, this guy's probably a conservative that has completely different social viewpoints and values than I have because he's military and he's fucking rich. And he probably got his money. I go on all kinds of trips, right? So anyway, I go, oh, a donor. Hey, you got any kids? Are they into music? Oh, well, I support the Boys and Girls Club. Really? I'll bet there's some people in there that would love to be part of our project. And I have met some of the coolest people that I otherwise would have gotten completely triggered by because I have trained to anticipate the situation. So instead of getting triggered, I use my triggers for my benefit. I use them as allies instead of adversaries. Go over the 5 steps. Think about them. Cook on them. See how they apply to you. If you need some help, get a hold of me, Toby at tobychristensen.com. Play with them. Have fun with them. Don't take them too seriously, but bring them into your awareness. And as I always say, keep looking up.